everything that I do as an actor, like I get to access all of that confusion and pain. Going into that audition to play Arya Stark, you know, here we go again, like gonna be a disappointment. The only time that I really felt that joy that I saw in other people was when I was like dancing or performing. I feel like human, you know? And so I was like, I've just got to do anything I can to like do this forever.
As you sit here today at 25 years old, how do you feel about your father?
Well, to be honest with you, I've been thinking about this a lot. And like I've been trying to do this thing where I stop taking things personally. And like not just like, you know, when someone's had a bad day and they like push in front of you in the queue, but like the big things in life. Like, what if I said that it was not like, it wasn't because of me that happened? Like if I wasn't there, it would have been someone else. Like it's not, it wasn't like because there's something wrong with me that like these bad things happened when I was a child.
Is that a thought you had?
Yeah. I felt like there was something inherently wrong with me or us because like we did lots of things wrong all the time, which is like why, you know, you'd be mistreated or whatever because you're like, oh, like we really need to be better at this because we keep doing things wrong and we keep getting in trouble type thing. But then I was like, well, you know, like, and especially, well, because it was someone, you know, a parent, and I felt like, oh, they're supposed to like you. And so, you know, but then I was like, well, what if like there's just like no connection between like me being, you know, his daughter and like it could have been like literally anyone like experiencing that pain and it would like still be the same. And then I just kind of could separate myself from it a little bit and I could start to sort of reflect on him as a person and be like, what happens that you get so stuck in your mind that you can just like, you know, permanently like mistreat people? You know, what? Children. Like your own children. But, you know, taking that step back and seeing it like more objectively kind of like makes me quite interested in the guy. I don't know him at all.
It's interesting because I've seen so many other interviews you've done and without knowing that early context, a lot of the things I was hearing didn't
make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that it, you know, it makes sense as maybe an interesting use of words, but it always felt like there was part of your story that was untold.
Yeah. You know, I think when I was like 12 and I'd done a bit of Game of Thrones and was doing interviews then, like the first interviews that I'd ever done, I remember people sort of being like, but you're so young. Like, how do you pretend, like, how do you show this pain? Like, you've just seen like the death of your father, or like, how do you know that, like, how do you act that sort of like fury? And I just like in my head was like, that's a really stupid question because I've known how that feels. But like, you know, it's like, I don't know, something nice to just like leave in the past, I guess. But it's hugely influenced like everything that I do as an actor. Like I get to access all of that confusion and pain in my job, and I get to like really feel it in like every fiber of my being, but there's no like consequence and there's no like, you're not really shouting at anyone or hurting someone, or it's like it's all pretend, but like the emotion is real, and like just being able to like let that out is something that I didn't do for a long time. And so it's like it just all sort of came to the surface. And I guess like holding, you know, the early part of my story like to myself is also just because I haven't really understood it the way that I have now. And I'm sure I will understand it, you know, far better in the future. But I feel like now there's like some sort of closure to it where the journey might help other people, whereas before it was just like pain, and no like
conclusion.
Right. Yeah. No, like, okay, we're
Insight.
Through the other side. Yeah, it was just
yeah.
like other problems that come from like the same problem. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, going into that audition to play Arya Stark, I was sort of surrounded by girls that like were joyous and like were free, and like they were kids who were happy and you know had whatever they had, and I thought, wow, I really you know, here we go again, like gonna be a disappointment. But you know, for that moment, actually that was what they needed. And so that was sort of like a moment in my life where I was like, maybe this thing isn't all bad. Maybe there can be something like beautiful that comes from, you know, this part of myself that I find like unnatural, like, or like just different to other kids.
Here we go again. I'm going to be a disappointment.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you mean by that? So when you got the role, you presumed that you were going to let people down? Or?
Yeah. No. I just like going into the room, I meant like,
okay.
Oh no, I'm not going to be what they're looking for. But I did end up being what they were looking for. But like, you know, I just...
presumed the worst a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
This was your first audition, right? Game of Thrones?
Yeah, well, one of I had an audition before that, which I also was very excited about and then didn't get. So that was like my first like, you know, professional rejection.
But you were still putting yourself out there in situations where you could be rejected.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it was because the only time that I really felt that joy that I saw in other people was when I was like dancing or performing. And there was this feeling that I would get that I was like, this is like, I feel like human, you know? And so I was like, I've just got to do anything I can to like do this forever. And so from a very young age, I was like, I want to go to stage school and I want to, I'm happy to leave everything and go and do that. And so I really, every opportunity was like, I guess that little part that you said, like, I've got nothing to lose. It was like, on the other side of this could be absolutely everything. So I have to do it.
I read this book. I say read. I watched the summary on YouTube. But I'll just say it sounds more impressive. I read this book called The Body Holds the Score. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. And one of the most fascinating things about it is it talks about how acting and moving the body in like yoga have been proven to be the best forms of antidepressant, like without, you know, taking SSRIs or anything. They've been proven to, and I remember thinking, acting is a great antidepressant. How is that possible? But what you're saying now rings true. It talks about how it kind of disassociates from identity when we act. And so what you're saying now seems to validate what I read.
I'd love to read that, because that's like exactly what I instinctively like discovered. Like it just happened and I thought, like this is what I'm supposed to do.
Have you ever figured out why acting was because I say the word escapism, but why it was so liberating for you? Is it escapism? Is it because it disassociates you from your own identity? Is it because you can create this new...
There's like two parts of it. It was like how I felt, like within my body, like everything floated away, and like the way that it felt to move my body, or the way that it felt to like contort my voice, or like whatever. It just like that feeling when you're like can't stop laughing. It was just like incredible. And then there was the way that it made other people feel. And I guess like with acting, with dancing, it was very much about the way that it felt and not necessarily the way that it looked or like how other people would experience it. But with acting, it's like you get that sort of two-way thing. And I also saw the joy that it would bring other people. And like, I guess like you're like not disappointing. You're like making someone laugh, or you're making someone happy, or you're like, and that was like, you know, fun and new.